The 5 biggest winners of Phase 3 changes.
Since the Phase 3 announcement, we've had tons of information drop about what is to be expected with the patch on April 4th. With each passing phase, we're getting closer to our class's full toolkit of abilities through runes, and we've already seen both new class identities and existing specs come so far.
Yeah, I'm a little
and it's going
worried.
to be super exciting to see how things play out during the future of the season. Today, though, we're going to be delving into the realm of
It's
data
over
mining to check
for
out
Red.
what runes have been found
By
for
the
Phase 3,
McConnell
and
chat.
trying to make some guesses about which classes or specs will be gaining the most from this update.
Okay.
These very well may not end up being the best specs by any stretch of the imagination, but they're just ones which I think are set to improve. Of course, word of warning as per usual, data mining isn't
Chat,
final,
that's gonna be
but can always
insane
be
in Phase
buffs
3.
and nerfs. And if you don't want spoilers
It's
for the
our
upcoming
phase.
content in terms of the runes, this
It's
may
our
not be the video
phase.
for you. For
Our
everyone
time
else,
has
however,
come.
let's check out the runes and see which specs I reckon are going to be the biggest winners in Phase 3. Now, I was hoping last phase that the new runes would bridge the gap towards making Rogue feel as though it's a more desirable option, and whilst there were improvements in some ways, I've often heard this phase that people are struggling to secure raid spots, largely due to a
Are rogues actually struggling? Maybe because I make all my raids, I don't feel it. I feel like my rogue kicks fucking ass. I feel I'm strong on my rogue.
lack of utility and
People
not
don't like
providing
rogues.
enough throughput to make up for it. It's the same
There's
scenario
always one
Rogues
or
had
two
early
rogue
on
in a
in
raid.
TBC now I think about it, but anyways, I think rogues are set to get one of the most powerful runes we've seen this phase by far, and this one is confirmed, and that rune is Honor Among Thieves. When any player in your party crits, you gain 1 combo
So
point
OP.
against your current target, and this can't happen more than once per second. I mean, simply just doing the maths in an optimal scenario, that's 30 more combo points over 1 minute duration of combat than you would have had before. Or in other words, potentially 6
gonna
more
be so good.
5 combo point finishers. In reality, with things like RNG, the GCD, and not always being able to instantly spend these combo points, it's probably going to be more like 20 or something extra. But that's still 4 more 5 combo point finishers than you can do at the moment. And that's without you actually doing anything yourself to generate combo points. You're going to be getting combo points at such a rapid rate, this is going to feel crazy to play, both for
gonna
tank
feel
and
amazing,
DPS.
I feel
DPS rogues are also getting Carnage, which makes targets afflicted by one of your bleeds take 20% more damage from abilities. Between Garrote and throwing on a Rupture, thanks to your newfound combo point generation,
Garrote.
this is not going to
I
be
thought it was
hard
Garrote.
to keep active, but I think Tank
I've been saying it
Rogue
wrong.
stands to gain the most here. On top of Honor Among Thieves, they can take Unfair Advantage, which instantly strikes back at a target for 100%.
Chat, can I just point out how everyone in Classic's like, oh no, don't do transmog. I like looking unique and really cool. Man, every letterers look like this. We look the fucking same, man. What do you mean unique and cool, dude? Everyone looks the fucking same.
main hand weapon damage when you dodge every 1 second. I've put together an example type build here. It's not going to be perfect, but it's just to
Okay.
show you what I'm talking about. Thanks to Honor Among Thieves, you may also be able to move away from Mutilate as a combo point generator. This opens up the possibility to go back to Saber Slash alongside having a very slow main hand weapon. Then you can benefit from the likes of Wind Fury, Sword Spec, and Unfair Advantage. I still think Mutilate might be a bit too good, but this should work in theory. Now, you may have also noticed I've taken improved exposed armor in the assassination tree instead of going down and picking up Adrenaline Rush. And this is another thing you might not have heard about this phase for rogues, but rogues have utility now. They have a reason to be brought to the raid other than just damage. From data mining, rogues seem to be getting 3 new poisons. Now, it does appear the versions which have been data mined are what we will be getting at level 60, and they're showing stats at that level. However, we can scale down the value of the debuffs, and we can compare them to homunculi to see how good they're going to be. And if the math works out, I believe next phase, rogues will have the best attack power debuff, the best attack speed debuff, and biggest of all, the best armor debuff in the game. So let's go through them and compare. A trophic poison reduces attack power. At level 50, it should reduce attack power by about 170, which is 10 more than homunculi. This is the smallest deal out of the debuffs though, so this one's probably optional. Numbing
From
poison
useless to
decreases
OP.
attack speed. Attack speed debuffs typically don't scale with level or rank or anything. They always
I feel
just
like
do the
rogues aren't
same
useless.
value.
They do
And the
big damn.
tooltip here says it reduces attack speed by a massive 20%. Homunculi's 10%.
This will make it more
And the
desirable
other
for
best
sure,
option
though.
is a warrior running
All
the
of these right
Furious
here.
Thunder rune, which will be 16%. So if there's a really hard-hitting melee boss, this poison will be a big deal, assuming it is 20% at level 50, that is. But here's the biggest one. It's called Sebaceous Poison. At least I think that's how you say it. At level 50, it should reduce the target's armor by around 1,400. Rough estimate there. But it also benefits from improved exposed armor. So you multiply that value by 1.5 and that's a 2,100 armor reduction debuff. Homunculi at 50 should be 1,900. So rogues, numbing and sebaceous poison, and that's your raid spot secured pretty much. Everyone will want to bring this. But of course using poisons on your main hand and offhand means you won't get instant poison anymore from Deadly Brew. And you have to spec into improved exposed armor. A small price to pay for an invite though, surely. Next up is another class I had which I expected to see
Most of the rogues want to run that.
big improvements from phase 1 to 2, and they're making a comeback, so I think they're going to be great in phase 3 as well, and that's the Elemental Shaman. I do think though Ele Shaman spikes super hard at level 40 because of their talent tree, and there will be less power coming from talents.
Yo, Red's been
forwards.
climbing
So
on
the
the
new
ladder.
runes they're going to be getting are going to
Red
have
is
to be
back.
good. And I think they are. First up on your helm is Burn, which causes Flame Shock to now hit 3 targets. Aside from being some extra damage on multi-target fights, this is now also going to give Power Surge a much better proc chance. So you can get a free lava
he's gonna
burst
talk about
or a
Red
chain
here, chat?
lightning, depending what you need. You also get Rolling Thunder as one of your new Bracer runes. If you've played Elemental in a later expansion, this is Fulmination. So your Lava Burst and Chain Lightning have a 30% chance to add a charge to Lightning Shield, up to 9 stacks total. Earth Shock will expend all of those charges to instantly deal damage and restore some mana back to you. And it should be worth investing into improved Lightning Shield for this too now. Alongside Overload, this should stack up pretty quickly, though I do wonder if hitting multiple enemies can generate more than 1 stack. Also, this will convert your Lightning Shield stacks into a spell which can crit, which is great for Elemental. At least I'm assuming it will be able to do so. So now you'll always want a 9 stack shield built up before you drop an Elemental Mastery, and you'll be doing massive burst. Elemental will be globaling people with this for sure. I mean, they already were, but
yeah, they're already globing right now, man.
Future too. Another rune which I'm super interested to see in action is Overcharged. If this ability works the way I think it might do, this is the best rune this phase by far. Now, I put together a build here, and you're probably looking at this and saying, what is this mess? This looks terrible and will do 0 threat, but I'm speculating that Overcharged will carry Tank Shaman very hard. The rune itself saves a Lightning Shield never loses charges, has a 1-second cooldown, and deals damage to all nearby enemies within 8 yards. It already sounds good, but what gives it potential is snapshotting. In brief, snapshotting is using an ability when you have many different buffs running at the same time, and that ability will keep dealing damage as if those buffs were active. So typically, buffs do crit percentage, damage percentage, and spell power are all snapshotted. Though I'm not expecting Lightning Shield to crit, so we can ignore that, but flat damage increases and spell power should snapshot on a shield which lasts forever, which is gonna get pretty crazy. So Lightning Shield has a 0.26 spell power coefficient, at least according to Wowhead. I went and tested in game and this seemed about right. So let's say with next phase and Mental Quickness you can get 300 spell damage total. I think this is lowballing it, by the way. Also, you might be able to get a Mental Quickness buff and then swap to a plus Nature's Wrath set and double dip from both
that
spell
paladin that
damage
used
buffs. I
to
want
find
to
all
say
the
at the
one-shot
upper end,
exploits.
if this works, you could be looking at over 500 spell power. Anyways, Lightning Shield rank 6 does 154 damage by default. If we snapshotted 300 spell power, that'll add 78 damage per tick. So we're already up to 232 damage to everything around you every 1 second. This is getting pretty insane now. But then we get the flat percentage damage increases. So we add on 10% from Dark Moon,
it doesn't stop,
15%
man.
from Talented Lightning Shield. This probably only affects the base damage, not the total damage. I haven't tested this, but we'll just say that for the time being. And we add on 20% spell damage from power infusion, and suddenly our lightning shield is doing 336 damage to everything around you every 1 second with an infinite duration. This kind of goes without saying would be extremely overpowered. That's just over 10,000 damage to everything within a yard of you just for existing over a minute. This is why I put such a weird looking build together which takes all the utility stuff. I think lightning shield has the potential to hard carry tank Shaman, and imagine Shaman tanks in dungeons or just on AoE gold farming. They're going to be absolutely S+ tier. Priests can start selling PI snapshot in Orgrimmar like they're mages for portals or something. We'll see how this ability plays out. Maybe I'm wildly overestimating it, but this could be a big deal for Shamans. Next up, I have Affliction Warlocks. So if you didn't know, Destruction,
I'm afraid now. You guys keep saying it's hard to log on.
Is getting nerfed or changed, depending how you look at it. Now you have to fully channel Rain of Fire to get a 50% damage debuff on enemies. There's still other good rune options, but this change may open up people to consider Affliction a little bit more. Here's our talents, pretty much taking all the key damage over time, improving effects in the Affliction tree. And notably, we're going to be using Drain Life as our filler spell because I'm going with what I believe is the intended way to play the spec. On our head rune, we of course have Pandemic. This is going to make our dots crit and is a big deal. This rune alone opens up Affliction as a consideration in PvE. On the wrist, we have Unstable Affliction, a powerful damage over time effect which deals damage and gives Affliction's dots some dispel protection in PvP, and it should have good base damage.
I always hated fighting against the Affliction Warlock, but playing an Affliction Warlock in PvP is so satisfying, man. To dot up everyone and slowly rot, such a good feeling.
If it's anything like runes
to fight against,
I've gone with Soul Siphon for the Drain Life filler here, though to be honest, I think improved Shadow Bolt is going to be better, because when Shadow Bolt crits with that talent, targets take 20% more shadow damage, and that debuff isn't consumed by dots. If Soul Siphon made Nightfall procs improve Drain Life in some way, such as reducing its cast time by 50%, or making it hit all nearby targets for half damage or something, that would go a long way to help this rune. But it'll be worth a go either way, we'll see how it plays out. I just hope fights last long enough for dots to feel impactful. You'll also be able to put together a functional Nightfall Ruin spec at level 50 that you could have as your off spec for dungeons or trash. This is going to be very good on AoE. When you're dealing lots of damage, Grimoire of Synergy should have a good proc rate, and that's going to be a 25% damage buff on your pet. It's also very important to know which version of Felguard we're getting. It's already going to be the best demon for Grimoire of Synergy because it just attacks more than other demons, so it has more chance to proc it. But if, for example, we get the Cataclysm version of Felguard, which has Fellstorm, which is just Bladestorm but on your Felguard, then that is going to basically guarantee proc it. That would be incredible. But from the data mining, I can't tell which version we have yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But locks overall are looking pretty great. Next up, I have the Marksmanship Hunter. So
where's the Red Paladin, coach?
Traditional ranged playstyle.
Where's the Red Paladin
lacking behind their new melee identity in Phase 2. Is this gonna change in Phase 3? Yeah, probably not, but at least Marksmanship's getting cool stuff either way, so let's check that out. So here's the talent tree and runes I put together. On the head, we're taking a Lock and Load. This makes it so your next shot is free and doesn't incur a cooldown whenever a trap is triggered. Of course, we're gonna need Trap Launcher alongside that, and to weave in different traps around our big shot.
Why does that emote
On
look
our wrist, we have Focus Fire, which is kind of just 15% more ranged attack speed. Just make sure you have a slow weapon this phase, because we're trying to take steady shot here too, and that's been buffed to 75% weapon damage, and you're gonna need to weave that in around auto attacks. By the looks of it, sniper training is also getting a mini rework. Now you get 2% crit when you haven't moved for the last 2 seconds, stacking every second up to 5 times, but when you move you lose 1 stack per second, so it's less all or nothing and should just generally be better to use now. True Shot Aura is also just straight up being buffed, and it will now give the hunter additional ranged attack power corresponding to the rank you have. So at level 50, it's going to give 75 attack power to all party members, and an additional 75 ranged attack power to the hunter as well.
True Shot was raid wide, right?
sure how you fit aim shot into the rotation still. It feels as though we need a rune to make it a bit more usable or to just reduce the cast time or something. Either way, marksmanship is seeing
please make it a
improvements.
raid wide,
Hopefully
man.
the ranged hunter enjoyers find it playable. Last but not least, we have warrior. So just so you know, I spent a while messing around trying to find a way that gladiator stance will be playable in PvE, and I came up with
party wide. Oh, that's trash, man. All buff raid wide win. I like raid wide, man. I hate party wide. With the 20 man, we're gonna have some people getting shafted. Yeah.
nothing. I just don't see this spec doing damage. There needs to be a short cooldown ability which deals damage that scales with how good your shield is on a rune or something. But next phase, I think arms is going to keep getting better and better, and that's good because it's already doing well in raid and it's okay in PvP as long as you're not getting one shot, that is. Our new runes on the helm will be Taste for Blood. This makes it so your rend can proc overpower once per 6 seconds, and we also take Wrecking Crew on your bracers. This makes your melee crits enrage you, increasing critical damage of all attacks by 10% for 6 seconds. Wrecking Crew is a much bigger deal than it looks. Melee abilities get a 200% crit damage modifier by default, and with this rune and impale, you're now doing 2.6 times normal damage on a crit. That's a big number. The talents are going to be pretty similar to what you always play as arms, there's not a huge amount of leeway here. The big difference will be what weapons are good at level 50, as to whether you'll play axes or swords. I also think you might not even go into Zerker stance anymore playing this. You're going to be spamming a lot of abilities, and unless you're activating Recklessness, you just sit in battle stance or risk wasting rage. Maybe that's part of a new skill ceiling for warriors where they have to manage stance dancing. But think of all the stuff you're going to have to use. You're going to have to be keeping up rend, you're going to have overpower procs, you're going to have slam procs, you're going to have to keep Mortal Strike on cooldown too. And Wrecking Crew says on its tooltip, it's an enrage, so maybe Raging Blow is also back on the menu, and your glove rune will either be Quick Strike or Endless Rage, depending on whether you need to spend more rage or generate more. This sounds pretty great overall for arms warriors though. And as a general point, I don't think they're going to put as much armor on bosses.
Am I being naive?
Phase 2
I know warriors are not happy
so
about
maybe warriors
runes.
are really back in phase 3. But those are just a few of my picks for the most interesting class and specs heading into phase 3. Definitely let me know what you're playing, whether you think any of these will work out, and what you're looking forward to trying in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in.
Okay.
And I'll see you all on the next one.
Chat, Red Pally in the next one. Warriors will most likely be on the top going into Sunken Temple. I think Rogue and Warriors will be back for sure.